At 61 years old, Melissa Gilbert is finally sharing the real story about Patty Duke, and it's a story worth hearing. Melissa Gilbert was born on May 8, 1964 in Los Angeles, California, a city famous for movies and TV shows. When she was just a baby, she was adopted by Paul Gilbert, who was an actor and comedian, and his wife Barbara Crane, so right from the start, Melissa grew up around cameras, studios, and famous people. Being raised in Hollywood meant she had lots of chances to try acting, and she fell in love with it pretty quickly. Even though working in movies and TV can be really hard, especially for kids, Melissa was tough and determined, and she made a name for herself not just as a child star but later as a grown-up actress, a director, a writer, and someone who stands up for what's right. Melissa's biggest moment came when she was only 9 years old and got cast as Laura Ingalls Wilder on a super popular TV show called Little House on the Prairie, which ran from 1974 to 1983. The show was based on famous books written by the real Laura Ingalls Wilder about pioneer families living on the American frontier, and it became a huge hit because it showed the importance of family, faith, working hard, and never giving up even when times were tough. Melissa played a character that Michael Landon's character, Charles, lovingly nicknamed Half Pint, and millions of people around the world absolutely loved her. She was so natural and real on screen, showing both strength and sweetness, that viewers of all ages felt like they knew Laura personally. Week after week, Melissa made people laugh and cry, and she helped make Little House on the Prairie one of the most loved family shows ever made. But Melissa's career didn't stop when Little House ended, not even close. She kept acting in tons of TV movies, taking on serious and emotional roles that showed she could handle really difficult characters. In 1983, she starred in a movie called Choices of the Heart where she played a missionary named Jean Donovan, and in 1979, she was in The Miracle Worker playing Helen Keller, the famous girl who was blind and deaf, while Patty Duke played her teacher Anne Sullivan. These roles proved that Melissa could do more than just play a sweet pioneer girl. She could take on grown-up, complicated parts that required real acting skill and emotional power. As an adult, she also appeared in other TV series like Stand By Your Man and Sweet Justice, plus she made guest appearances on many different shows, proving she could keep up in the tough and competitive world of entertainment. Melissa didn't just act though, she also became a leader in Hollywood. From 2001 to 2005, she was the president of the Screen Actors Guild, which is also called SAG, and this organization represents thousands of actors all across the United States. During the time she was president, Melissa worked really hard to make sure actors got fair pay, good health care, and protection from unfair treatment, especially as the entertainment business kept changing and getting more complicated. This part of her career showed everyone that Melissa wasn't just talented in front of the camera. She was also brave and strong when it came to fighting for other people's rights. Between 2008 and 2009, Melissa appeared as Caroline Ma in a musical version of Little House on the Prairie that was directed by Francesca Zambello, and the show first premiered at the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis. After that, the musical went on a big tour around the United States starting in 2009, and it finally wrapped up at the Starlight Theater in Kansas City, Missouri in June 2010. Melissa also tried her hand at writing books, giving her fans a closer look at her life story. In 2009, she wrote a memoir called Prairie Tale where she honestly talked about growing up in Hollywood, the pressure of being a child star, her battles with addiction, and how she eventually found healing and recovery. She also wrote My Prairie Cookbook in 2014, which mixed family recipes with fun stories from her Little House days, and her fans absolutely loved it. By being so open about her personal struggles, Melissa showed people that even famous people who seem to have perfect lives deal with really hard problems too. Melissa's personal life has been just as interesting and full of ups and downs as her acting career, especially when it comes to love and marriage. In 1988, she married an actor named Bo Brinkman, who was related to the famous Sheen and Estevez acting family through his cousin Martin Sheen. They were both working in entertainment and seemed like a good match at first, and in 1989, they had a son named Dakota Paul Brinkman, which made Melissa a mom for the first time. But even though they tried to make their marriage work, things were difficult between them, and after 6 years together, they decided to get divorced in 1994. That marriage taught Melissa a lot about love, family, and growing as a person. Just 1 year after her divorce, Melissa fell in love again, this time with an actor named Bruce Boxleitner, who was well known for his roles in shows like Scarecrow and Mrs. King and the Tron movies. Actually, they had met years earlier when Melissa's former co-star Michael Landon Jr. introduced them, and when they reconnected, their romance grew fast. They got married in 1995 in a beautiful ceremony, and Melissa became a stepmom to Bruce's 2 sons from his previous marriage. That same year, They also had a son together named Michael Garrett Boxleitner, and they named him after Michael Landon, who had been like a father figure to Melissa on Little House on the Prairie. Melissa and Bruce stayed married for over 16 years, which was her longest relationship at that time. During those years, they dealt with all the usual challenges of being married in Hollywood, trying to balance their acting careers, raising kids, and living in the public eye. But despite their long history together and their family, Melissa and Bruce eventually decided to divorce in 2011, ending another important chapter in her life. After spending some time focusing on herself and her children, Melissa found love once more, this time with actor and director Timothy Busfield, who was famous for his roles in shows like 30-something and The West Wing, plus the movie Field of Dreams. In January 2013, Melissa's representative announced that they were engaged, and fans were really happy for them because both Melissa and Timothy had been respected actors for a long time. Their relationship moved pretty fast because they had great chemistry and shared the same values about family, creativity, and living a simpler life. On April 24, 2013, they got married in a small, romantic ceremony in Santa Barbara, California, and Melissa often said that Timothy was her true partner and soulmate. After their wedding, the couple decided to leave the typical Hollywood lifestyle behind and move to a small town called Howell, Michigan, where they lived from 2013 to 2018. In Howell, they enjoyed a much quieter and more normal life, far away from the craziness of Los Angeles. Melissa got really involved in the local community and even had fun fixing up an old Victorian house, which she said was a labor of love and represented her new beginning. During these years in Michigan, she also focused more on writing, getting involved in politics, and taking care of her health, trying to find peace and balance after spending so many years in the spotlight. By late 2018, Melissa and Timothy decided to move again, this time to New York City. Moving to New York was like starting another new phase in their lives, going from the calm of small-town Michigan to the busy, exciting energy of Manhattan. In New York, Melissa was surrounded by art, theater, and creative opportunities that inspired her both professionally and personally. The move also let her be closer to her extended family and reconnect with the fast-paced creative world that had been such a big part of her earlier life. With Timothy by her side, Melissa entered this new stage with renewed energy, showing how resilient and adaptable she was and proving she was committed to embracing love and life in whatever form it came. Now, at 61 years old, Melissa Gilbert, the actress everyone remembers as Laura Ingalls Wilder from Little House on the Prairie, has finally decided to open up about her complicated and very personal connection with another Hollywood legend named Patty Duke. For many years, Melissa had kept certain parts of her life private, carefully choosing when and how she would share personal truths with the world. But now, with the wisdom that comes with age, she felt it was time to speak honestly and hold nothing back. Her words, filled with the authenticity of someone who has lived through a lot, expressed not only deep admiration for Patty Duke's incredible talent, but also thoughtful reflections on the darker sides of show business and the huge impact that Duke's struggles had on her own understanding of what it's like to live life in the spotlight. When Melissa talked about Patty Duke, she spoke in her typical straightforward but heartfelt way, and she often started with a sense of deep respect, saying, "Patty Duke was one of the most fearless actresses I've ever seen," and she explained that Patty had this amazing ability to bring a character to life in a way that made you feel like you weren't just watching someone act, but watching someone's actual soul being revealed right before your eyes. For Melissa, who had also grown up in the entertainment industry starting at age 9, watching Patty Duke's performances was both inspiring and a little scary because she could see the raw honesty and vulnerability that all great actors try to achieve, but underneath all that brilliance, Melissa also noticed the signs of struggle that so many child stars and adult performers went through in Hollywood, struggles that she herself had experienced. When talking about Patty Duke, Melissa didn't avoid the difficult topics like the hardships Duke faced, her battles with mental illness, the enormous pressure of becoming famous as a young girl, and the often harmful personal relationships that came with her turbulent life. Melissa admitted, "When I was younger, I didn't fully understand what Patty was going through. I don't think any of us kids in the industry really did. We just thought she was moody or intense, but as I got older and lived through my own ups and downs, I realized that what she endured was incredibly difficult and painful." And Melissa explained that when Duke later opened up about her struggles with bipolar disorder, it gave countless people, including Melissa herself, the courage to talk about their own problems without feeling ashamed. Melissa also thought about how Patty Duke, in many ways, became a warning story for young actors like herself, saying, "I looked at Patty's life and thought if she can survive everything she's been through and still have the strength to stand up and speak out, then there's hope for all of us." And she admitted that Duke's story made her more aware of the dangers of Hollywood's tough demands, especially on young women. Melissa acknowledged that her own path, which included public relationships, divorces, health problems, and her own battles with addiction, had been similar to some of Duke's hardships, and she said, "There were times when I felt like I was teetering on the same edge that Patty had lived on for years, but watching how she eventually took control of her narrative, gave me the courage to try and do the same for myself." What really stood out in Melissa's memories wasn't just her admiration for Patty Duke's professional skills, but also her deep empathy for Duke's personal battles, and Melissa emphasized, she was human. That's something people forget when they look at stars. Patty wasn't just an actress or an icon or a tragic figure. She was a human being who wanted love, stability, and peace just like the rest of us. And she spent much of her life trying to find that. Melissa's words felt like she was speaking not just as a fellow actress, but as a woman who truly understood what it meant to balance public fame with private pain. By telling her truth about Patty Duke, Melissa gave fans a rare look into the complicated world of Hollywood's child stars, a world that offers amazing opportunities but also creates enormous pressure. At 61, her thoughts carried the weight of looking back on life with compassion and a strong desire to honor the memory of a woman whose life had been both incredibly bright and deeply troubled. And Melissa concluded by saying, "If there's anything I've learned from Patty, it's that our struggles don't define us, they shape us, and if we can find the courage to share them, maybe we can help someone else feel less alone." Through these honest revelations, Melissa not only honored Patty Duke but also reaffirmed her own journey of honesty, resilience, and personal growth. And at an age when many people choose to stay quiet, Melissa chose to speak up, reminding the world of the power that comes from telling the truth, even when it's difficult and even when it's been a long time coming.